Hey there, are you grieving the potential loss of a loved one or feeling overwhelmed with the loss of someone you care about? If so, you're in the right place. Lisa Hartung here, and this podcast is designed to guide you through topics surrounding death and dying. We'll dive into multifaceted aspects of grief, offering you a blend of personal stories, expert insights, and practical advice for your grief journey. May this be a safe space for you to learn, listen, and ask questions about your own life and loved ones. So grab your favorite beverage and let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Giving Grief Grace. Today, I am super grateful to have Melanie Ezell back with us. She was with us on episode 24, all about living fully with stage 4 ovarian cancer and having the freedom to, letting go of life as we knew it. And so this week, Melanie is out with a new book called Inherited, A Life Without a Cure. And for those of you who don't know Melanie yet, she's a writer, a mother, a yogi, a surfer who lives on the North Shore of Oʻahu. And at 41, she was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. Rather than let it become the end, she's really turned it into one of the most honest conversations about grief and motherhood and finding presence in the midst of pain. And she's just been such an inspiration. And I'm super grateful for Melanie for taking time to be with us again today to talk about your book. I'm reading through it and I just can't put it down because you have such a gift with words. And for someone who usually listens to audiobooks, I was reading this one and had such a beautiful experience. So welcome back to the show, Melanie. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. My heart is really full. I'm just super, super grateful to be here. I'm super grateful to you. I'm grateful for the book launch and yeah, feeling happy today.
Oh my goodness. And you've been such an inspiration because you're not afraid to talk about and be really vulnerable about your experience, about what it's like to have stage 4 cancer and live that every day. And so I thought maybe we could start out, first in reading your book, the intro is a little message that you wrote to your son and, just heartfelt tears, as a mom myself and seeing what a beautiful gift you're providing for him.
Mm.
Just inherited is the main title. And there's just so many layers to that word. And you feel it as you're reading it and, unpeeling different elements of your life. So you inherited the BRCA1 mutation from your father. And then what else did you feel you've inherited or that you want to pass on to your son? And maybe that's not genetics, but just the way of life or anything.
Yeah, there's so many layers to that word. And I started out writing the manuscript with this goal of kind of discovering why I had this gene, why it was passed on to me. There's a lot of new science coming out about epigenetics and how when an ancestor experiences trauma, they pass down that trauma response to you. And our genes are actually signaled by the environment that we live in. And so this was really an inquisition into what caused my cancer. And I had this idea that maybe if I could figure out what caused it, then I could cure it. And I did not, and this is what I say at the last page of the book. It's not a spoiler alert, but I didn't cure my cancer. This book, it wasn't the cure, but it was in a way exactly the medicine that I needed because I started digging into that inheritance of what I learned from my parents, from the church, from culture at large, what messages I received, and the ways that those do serve me and no longer serve me, and the ways in which I want to alchemize those messages. I want to take what is beautiful about those messages and transmute that into something else that I can pass on to my son, not to be a cycle breaker, but to carry the torch forward. And so, some of those messages were, a sinful body, a shameful inheritance, and this work ethic that came from a long line of, we're all immigrants here in this country, and this work ethic that said that there's not time to slow down, there's not time to have anything in your life but productivity. And really writing the book, realizing what a beautiful gift that inheritance is, and how I can do even better than my ancestors did. And I can show my son that hard work is an amazing skill to have, and a heart-centered life is something that you can integrate with hard work. You don't have to choose one or the other, and that there is maybe a new, more evolved way of approaching the way that we live. So those are some of the inheritances that I pick apart in the book, with the goal, like I said in the introduction, or in the dedication, of what am I leaving to my son? Because I don't know if I'm going to be around for my son. I don't know how many years I have left. And I want to show him these are the lessons that I learned. And he's too little to tell him he's 5. So I can't just give him all my wisdom, but this is a way of, the best that I can, packaging up what I inherited and how I want him to interpret that for when he's an adult. And I think, even if God chooses to give me many, many more years on this earth, how cool would it be if your parents had given you something like that, when you were 5 years old, their experience when you were 5. So I'm really excited about leaving this book as a legacy to him as well.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, your life lessons that you learned, right? As you said, you talk about being on the mainland and element of religion, and then breaking free and living freely, living more in the moment, being okay with slowing down. And that's what you want to pass on to him. And that within itself is just such a gift, because I think that we're always going, 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 going. And so being okay with just pausing and slowing down is something that you've really learned. And I'm, thinking of part of, there's an part of the book where you're out on a boat with your girlfriends, and you've been on this quest and you're searching, as you said, if I could cure cancer, or if I can find out what caused cancer, then I can cure it. I even think back to my own experience with my mom's cancer and thinking along those same lines. And then when you say, well, we don't have to, share everything that's in the book, but like, just that you come to realize what a gift today is. And so when you're with your son, I think after you receive a diagnosis, you then look at life a little differently. And so when you're with him, and I love when you talk about, bringing him on the swing set and playing and hearing his giggle and curling up together and feeling his heartbeat. And, there's such a sweetness in the silent connection that you have with your child. And how do you step into that and, hold space for full, unbridled joy? And then being honest with him, right? You said he's 5. And so, there are some concepts of life that might not be there right now, but how do you have those conversations with him as well and be fully present with him?
Yeah, it's been a work in progress, and I think that's one of the gifts of cancer. As a surfer and as a yogi, I've trained for a long time to live in the present moment, because when you surf, you have to surf when the waves are right, when the conditions are right, when the weather is lined up. And so you have to build your life, you have to build this flexibility into your life that allows you to go with the flow. And of course, yoga is all about being present and being with your breath and being with sensation. So I had been toning this muscle of presence for a long time. But one of the things about a terminal diagnosis is you realize how much of your life is spent in your head
Mm.
and how much of that is draining your energy. And I look back, especially in writing this book, I was looking back over journals. I've kept journals since I was in first grade. So I'm looking back over these journals and I started noticing this trend. Like when I was a kid, it was, trying to figure out how to fit in all of the things that I was going to rehearse and practice for the day. So my memory verses and my grades that I was trying to work on and my basketball skills and my debate evidence so it was in my journals, I was constantly like charting timetables of how I could fit everything in so I could be this highly accomplished person so I could earn love. I mean, ultimately it was so I could earn love and feel safe. And then in my early 20s, I stopped doing that and I started writing these lists of like food plans and calorie counting and all of these ways that I could finally lose those last 5 pounds and get the perfect body so I could secure a high value man so I could finally be provided for and feel loved and feel safe. I write about my eating disorder in the book. I had to go through a lot of stuff with that, only for that eating disorder to then morph into finances. So how can I be secure? And so now it was these lists of budgets and business plans and spreadsheets. And if I get this much sales and I work that many hours here, again, to feel safe and secure love. And when I got cancer, I thought I threw all that out the window. It was like, okay, heart forward living. I'm following my heart. I'm doing only what feels good in my heart. And then looking back again over the journals, I'm seeing the lists appear again. And it's like the supplements that I'm taking and the fasting windows that I'm doing and tracking my ketones and all of these protocols that I'm doing to try and rid cancer. And at some point, I realized this is the same disease all the way through. It's this looking for something to bring me safety, validation, and love. And yeah, there's that moment on the boat with my girlfriends. And it was this one of the most amazing moments of my life where this man started praying and I was in this place no other humans go to. Like there was not another boat around, there were no roads, there was nothing, no other sign of humanity. And these big 10-foot swell lines are crashing against these 3,500-foot sea cliffs. And it was just a magical moment. And that moment just opened my eyes to how much is available right here and right now. When I stop the stories in my head about who wronged me and the way life should be and the anxiety about the future and trying to get everything right. And I just stop and take a breath. And one of the beautiful things about the cancer that I'm dealing with right now is it's in my lungs. So every time I take a breath, I physically feel the cancer. And it could be, and it sometimes is, very scary. You know, it can produce panic, it can produce grief, it can produce fear, but it's also a way of producing gratitude. I teach a few yoga classes a week, and obviously we're always focusing on breath. And it's so funny because I'll be out of breath teaching because I just can't get a deep breath like I used to. And I'll tell them, take a breath. Isn't this amazing? We get to take a breath. Like, how deep can you breathe in? And just thinking like, wow, I can still breathe this deep. And like how amazing it is that all of these students in front of me are breathing to their full lung capacity. What a gift. And they don't even know it. And I think you just, when something as big as cancer interrupts your life, you realize that all of that other stuff, it's just not that important anymore. And especially the resentments, the people who I thought needed to treat me differently, to look at them and go, wow, they were doing the best they could. That church that taught me that my body was sinful, that caused me so much, led to so much grief and so much pain in my life, those people in that institution were doing the best they could with what they knew. They loved me the best they could. Realizing that and not carrying that victim mentality anymore, it frees up
Mm,
all this energy to be in this present moment where you can actually see, the rays of sun and how they're hitting the cloud. And you're like, whoa, how amazing is it to have five senses? Like, I am here. I'm not in my head back there mad at them. And I'm not in my head over there worrying about that. I'm here with my full energy intact, with this breathing human cuddled up beside me or doing the goofy things that he does. Like, yeah, it really is a gift that I feel like maybe only the dying know how to teach.
mm,
Um, it's a hard place to get to. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but if you can get there, holy moly, life is so sweet on this side.
it's just releasing that, like, this is not serving me. I'm no longer the victim. They loved me from where they were.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I think everyone can associate with, of like when you've had situations and you felt like they wronged me in some way and I'm having a hard time, or oh yeah, it's okay, but then 10 years down the road you're still thinking about it, right? And so releasing that and being okay with they were doing the best they could when they the information that they had. Releasing that. I mean, how freeing.
Yeah, and even for me, I've even had to go one step deeper because I've been saying that to myself and I've been working through that. They did
Mhm.
the best they could with the information they had. But in the back of my mind, there was still this, but I have better information. I have more information.
Mhm.
I maybe am more evolved than they are. And I wouldn't like say it that way, but subconsciously there was still an element of judgment.
Mm.
And to now recognize what those people did and what they believed and how they behaved and how they acted and the words that they said were actually perfect for them in the world that they live in. And that world may not be one that I want to live in. Or I may choose to live in that world and choose to live by those rules or have to live by other rules and then create space and boundaries between that. But it doesn't make my world morally superior to theirs. There is a very good reason for the choices those people are making that works for them. And it doesn't mean it has to work for me. And
Hmm.
so I have found, and this is so recent in my journey, that forgiveness isn't about saying, you know what, you get a pass, you get a free pass, you were doing the best you could. It's about saying, I actually don't know what the best thing for you in your life is. I know that whatever you chose was the best thing for you at that moment, even if it wasn't the best thing for me. So it's kind of like, instead of handing down a judgment of like giving you a pass, it's stepping down from the judge's seat altogether.
Mm. And
Yeah.
like evening the playing field, and it's okay to disagree, right? You can agree to disagree. And it's hard to see eye to eye with someone on everything. And, I think you even talk about that with past spouses and how there's an ebb and a flow to things, releasing that without judgment.
Yeah, I even like look at, I mean, this is an extreme example, but I was married to Kurt, is his name in the book, and he was, when we met, clean and sober, former methamphetamine addict. And shortly after we got married, things started to go downhill and he started relapsing. And for a long time, I harbored resentment. And eventually I gave up the resentment, but still had this feeling of like, well, if only he did things my way, he wouldn't be in that kind of trouble.
Mm,
and feeling morally superior to him because he's a drug user and I'm not actually. Like, we all have our drug. It's just some of them aren't as visible as something like meth or cocaine or heroin. We all have something that we use to change our state to try and make us feel better. And realizing that man must have been in so much pain and anguish inside of himself that the best choice that he could make was to medicate that away.
mm,
And for however many years it takes for him to get miserable enough to realize, okay, this medication doesn't work. I need to try a different kind of, self-soothing or whatever it's going to be. And even if that doesn't happen in this lifetime for him, he has to go through that process. And for him, going through that process of using drugs is actually the best decision that he can make for his soul's evolution. He is exactly where he needs to be. And realizing that is true in every case
ah,
has been a game changer.
yeah. And you even say, like, you'd written in your journal, if I had cancer, then I would matter. And, now you're saying, I guess someone had said to you, everything happens for a reason. And you've been like, oh my gosh. But now seeing it where you are now, it's like, okay, so we are given these challenges and we are pushed to our limits, but it teaches us different things, right? It teaches us how to live differently, how to interact differently.
Yeah, I think that I believe that souls come here with a purpose.
Mm,
And I don't know if you get to your soul's purpose in one lifetime. I'm not sure what happens after that lifetime. I'll leave that to the religious experts. But for me, there are teachers along the road that will help us. They're like map givers. They give you a little map and they say, this is how you get to your life's purpose. And you can listen to that teacher, or you can use your free will and say, I don't want to follow that map. I'm going to go a different route.
mm,
But on that next route, another teacher will present themselves. And the teachers have to become more and more strict in order to get us to our highest good, to what our soul was designed to bring to life.
mm,
I believe that this is all moving forward. It's all moving in a direction of higher order, higher beauty, more love, more unity. And my soul has to fulfill its purpose. And so the teachers are going to keep coming. And cancer, unfortunately, had to be, a really strict teacher with me.
mm,
And I do believe I have learned so many and I have mastered and embodied so many of the lessons it came to teach me. There's probably so many more. And I don't know if, and this is coming back to trying to cure that cancer. I don't know if mastering the lessons means the teacher moves on and I get to keep going, or
mm.
if it just means that's the end for now and something else after I pass out of this body will be coming for me. I don't have that answer, but I'm really at peace with the idea that if I listen, if I get honest, if I do the brave thing, then I can move beyond this in some way in this lifetime or the next.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's not even really about moving beyond. It's about being in it, being in it while you're in it. What life can you find while you're going through it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm picturing you, on this boat with your girlfriends, and you're like a seed that has burst open, right? The sunshine is coming in. You're seeing this incredible landscape in front of you. And, this divine energy source or whatever you want to call it cracks open your heart and your being and allows you to be fully free and to sing the story of life. And when you say that I think it's so interesting, every pathway that we take in life, there are teachers and taking what we can out of that. But then do you think that we're our own best teachers, right? Because we
Mm.
only know ourselves. we know
Yeah.
ourselves the best, right?
A
And we know
hundred
we need.
percent. I don't think that the teachers come in the way that our teachers came. So I graduated I'm going to date myself. I graduated high school in 2002. The internet was just becoming like a popular thing then.
Mm.
So before that information age, we lived in a world where teachers were the disseminators of information. They
Mm.
gave us the answers. The books had the answers, and we went to somebody else as the authority to tell us things. And now, looking at the way that even my 5-year-old son is learning, it's so different because they're teaching him how to find the answers for himself. And knowing that we live in this age where everything, you just ask ChatGPT and the answer is right in front of you. So much more important than the knowledge is the process.
Oh,
And I think that that is what the teachers are that come into our lives. They're not giving us any answers, but they're bringing us through a process. And in that process, we're finding the wisdom that's been locked inside of us that we've always had, but that our inheritance has covered over because we live in this world it's broken. There are flaws. It's not a perfect world. And so we have imperfect parents and we have imperfect institutions, and that beautiful wisdom that our soul comes to this earth with fully intact, I think it gets clouded. And so these teachers come and they bring us through processes like cancer, like eating disorders, like divorce, like death of our loved ones. And we go through these and it just starts to, like you said, it's like a seed. It's like uncovering
yeah.
what was already buried in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you also feel this by finding out the process or learning the process, you feel more autonomous and while maybe you can't figure out the cure, you're still learning, right? We're all on this lifelong journey of learning. And so it allows us to continue that just a deeper investigation into our lives and how we work and connect with one another.
Yeah, I think about like, reading the autobiography of a yogi
Mm.
and these ascended yogis that, I mean, they were so much closer to enlightenment than I will ever hope to be in this lifetime. And yet they experienced death. Their souls had to leave that body behind at some point. And I think that's, part of the subtitle of the book is A Life Without a Cure. Like there's no cure for our mortality. And
Oh,
at some point we have to come face to face with like, I'm not in control. And it's in that surrender that there's so much life available to you
yeah.
when that surrender can happen. And it's something that I have to surrender every day. I do not have this down, but I'm working on it. And that, even though that vocabulary, I'm working on it. Like, stop working on it, just be. Yeah, it's a constant evolution. That's for sure.
I'm thinking of you writing your lists every night.
Oh
Like,
my God.
yeah,
I'm so trying not to.
and just being, right? And just, but I think that you touched a lot on gratitude, right? And how you're living this, you might not be able to breathe as well as you have in the past, but just being so grateful for the experience of breathing and
Mm.
for that connection that you have with the earth and feeling grounded. So many people
Yeah,
don't experience that at all.
I think it's been because I've always been an athlete and I've
Mm.
depended on my body to pretty much do what I've asked it to do. If I trained hard enough, I could do the thing,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was. And all athletes, all of us, at some point come face to face with our mortality where you look and you go, oh, I'm on the decline. My body will never be what it was back then physically. And that decline has happened for me kind of at warp speed.
Mm.
Instead of it taking 30 years, it's been like 3 years. And to really try to make friends with that, because you can either fight it and complain about it. And I hear it all the time out in the water. So I love to surf with the old guys, and it's always something. It's like, oh, I had this surgery, now my pop-up's not that good, and I had this shoulder injury and my paddle strength's not that good. And all of us are facing
Mm.
something. And I just finally am getting to the place where I'll see photos on social media, or my friends will send me photos of them surfing these massive waves, like waves that I just would love to be out there surfing, but I don't trust my body to do that right now, or maybe not ever again. And I went through a lot of grief with that. And I still have it, it's not completely gone. And at the same time, this is new. A new feeling has emerged where I see the photos, and almost like a grandma, like looking at a picture of her grandchild, I don't feel jealous anymore. I feel really happy for them. Like, oh, you're doing it. Like the legacy continues. You're moving this forward. You're powering through. You still got it. Good for you. And then I can go and surf my, chest high waves on my longboard, and they're playful and silly, and I'm doing the goofiest things. And no, it's not this high adrenaline surfing that's, high stakes that they're doing. But I am laughing and I'm having so much fun. And the other day there was a double rainbow, and I got this wave. I don't know, it just came to me, perfectly came to me, and I was feeling strong that day. The waves were just a perfect fun size, and I got a wave under this double rainbow, and then the wave, I could tell right in front of me it was going to barrel, and I pulled in, and the lip pitched over me, and I'm looking out of this tunnel, and it was incredible. And no, it's not the same feeling as catching a big wave. It's not. And I'm so grateful that those people are out there doing that. And it's like, that's so beautiful and so good for them. And I don't need it anymore.
Mm.
I
Mm.
can be so happy with something else and be happy for them. And that again, it's one of these gifts that come from cancer, or from a terminal illness, or from aging, or from any sort of decline. When you get to the other side of it, when you get to acceptance,
Mm.
that edge can be gone, that like must accomplish something now feeling. And I could just be present with the rainbow and the turtles and the barrel. Like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a gift to have that perspective of you've lived that experience. Even reading, how you're reading about you, getting the special longboard and catching or you call it a gun,
Yes.
the special long surfboard to do the high wave or the big waves, and that anxiety, right, that you have as you're going to go hit up, and your mantra is only panic only when your feet hit the sand. And I'm like living this with you as you're going over and surfing these big waves and, worrying about crashing. And then for you to say, yeah, I'm okay now. I don't have that anxiety or that adrenaline rush as much anymore. I'm playful. I'm enjoying the new me. And I love how you said, like, we all go through this. And it's so true. And I'm a runner. And so I think about my times that, I was a middle distance runner, running an 800-meter. I don't know if I'll ever be able to run as fast as I did in high school or college, but what a gift that we were able to experience that and to have that win and be really happy with where we are now and not be constantly clinging or climbing
Yeah.
to get to that next level, right? It's just enjoying the here and now and being grateful for it.
And
And
I think most of us will never get to that level, the highest level. I mean, even the person who won Olympic gold wants to go back and win another Olympic gold. And at some point, even the best athlete comes to terms with, that's it, that was my time.
mm,
And for me to let that be in the past, it's a lot for all of us to let go of, and that's been a real struggle. And I'm so grateful that, my little friend, not little, he's a big boy, but he's in his early 20s, who, he was our housemate actually when he moved here at 18 and got his first big wave gun. And I took him out a couple times to the big wave spots and helped him dial in his equipment. And now I get photos from him of him surfing waves I've never surfed that big. And I'm just like, oh, you're doing it. I feel so happy for you. And there's no jealousy there
Mm.
anymore. And it's a gift. Really is a gift.
Yeah, and think of the legacy that you're imparting as a teacher, as a mentor. They are inheriting your wisdom and your guidance.
And
That's
hopefully they'll do better than I did, and that's always the goal, is like that you're going to take that torch and go forward with it.
yeah. And I just think about how you carry that with you throughout each different stage of your life, from relationships to work and thinking about this new phase that you're in, this new life and being that mentor. It's like How to Live a Good Life by Melanie. I
You know, I really struggled with like not making the book like that, because that's been it. Like every time I learn a lesson, I just want to go out and teach it to everyone. Like, dude, did you know this? There's a better way to live. Like, we don't have to live like I get very evangelical about the lessons that I'm learning. So yeah, I really have been trying not to be so like teachy or preachy,
Mm,
and just allow people to have their experiences and just come alongside them in their
mm,
experiences, and allowing people to come alongside me in mine and just do this life together. Just recently, a friend of mine, she's like, do you want to come over for tea? And I thought that meant like we'd sit around and chat. And she was like, no, this is tea in silence. And she had this like amazing playlist on, and she had this Zen tea set, and she just went through these really beautiful Zen motions of pouring the tea and steeping the tea and cleaning the cups. And we just sat there in silence, on the floor on bolsters across from each other, cross-legged, just heart to heart, feeling emotions together. Like, so little needs to be said sometimes. Like, she was my teacher in that moment, and I was also there for her, to just be seen, to be witnessed. And that's like going back to the truth is inside of us. We don't need to be taught.
yeah.
Sometimes we just need to be held.
Mm. And we've even talked about that before in grief, is you don't need people to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," or "Oh, that's really tough." You just want someone to sit with you.
Yeah. I was just talking to my son's father about that. We're still in each other's lives. I gave him a ride to pick up his car that had been in an accident today.
Mm.
And we still function as co-parents. And, most of our lives are pretty separate, and it really works well for us that way. But we help each other out like friends would, and we have boundaries like friends would have. But going back to that, yeah, I was just telling him my cancer markers went up. So they took a big jump just 2 weeks ago. They were within the normal range, and they were just slowly climbing, slowly climbing. And then instead of slowly climbing, they jumped a lot into the abnormal range. And what that means is another CT scan on Monday, and probably a stronger form of chemo than what I'm on. And then there's the possibility that the chemo won't work. So there's a lot of unknowns, and it's really scary. And when I told him that was going on, I didn't get any response from him at all. He just
Mm,
doing what he was doing.
mm,
And so I had to stop him. And I said, when you don't respond to me, I feel like you don't care. And he said, it's the opposite. It's that I care so much, I don't know what to say. And
mm,
I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to tell you, well, it's all going to be okay and it will all work out, because it might not. It probably won't. And I don't want to tell you, oh, this sucks so much, because then you're going to be stuck in your misery. And I thought about it for a long time, and I told him, you know what I need? I need you to say, I hear you. This feels, whatever it feels for you, scary, exciting, whatever. Tell me how it feels for you. And then say, I'm here, I'm listening. Tell me anything you want. And if you don't want, I will sit here until you say you don't need me to sit here anymore.
Mm.
And I couldn't believe I came up with that. And he's like, okay, I can do that for you. But it took me some thinking, like, what do I want when I'm scared and I am in grief? Because yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, even if the chemo works, I still have to go through chemo again. And that's a lot to grieve. That sucks.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I think that is what I want. I just want people to say, I'm here, I'm listening. This makes me feel, to know that they're feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
And talk as much as you want. Tell me when you don't need my presence anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I am feeling, and I'm
Mm,
here for you.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what special wisdom to share and be and have the words to tell someone what you need, because so many people ask, like, oh, well, just let me know what you need. And it's that's like an energy suck within itself.
It is.
Like,
It is. I know they mean so well, and I've done it myself so many times. Whatever you need, just let me know. I'm there for it, and I mean it. But like, I don't know what I need actually.
yeah. And so to have that revelation of like, yeah, I need you to tell me how you feel about this and sit with me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And just be there. What a good breakthrough. And from reading the book, your son's father is someone who is more laid back,
yeah.
right? And just kind of going with the flow. And so great for you to have that conversation with him and be really clear and get his side of the story.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about having a child with somebody who wants to be involved in your child's life. Like, you're not getting rid of them. So you have to figure out how to work with the person in front of you, because you're also not going to change them. Like, my son's father is 15 years older than me, and I was already an older mom. So he's set in his ways. And
Mm,
I spent most of that book trying to change him. And came to the realization that, like, he is who he is, and who he is beautiful. It
mm,
doesn't fit into my world in the way that I want a partner to fit into my world, but it does fit into my world in other ways. And so just letting him be laid back and letting him be go with the flow and appreciating that about him,
yeah.
and not forcing him to be the person who, of course, I would love a partner who's like, okay, we're on this. I'm scheduling all your next appointments. I'm making sure you have a ride to everything, just to like handle it. But that's not who he is or how he operates. And so I need to provide that for myself, or find someone else who does. And finding, I've had to also repeat the mantra, like, I'm a well-resourced woman.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I don't have to depend on him. I have my own resources.
Hmm. And girlfriends. You have
Yes.
very close girlfriends, which,
Amazing girlfriends.
like,
Yes.
what a gift. And they're with you on that, guys will come and go, but girlfriends will.
And it's something else that I realized, like, when I wasn't giving all of my energy to try to change him, to try
Mm,
and make him into who I wanted to be,
yeah.
then I had way more reserves for myself to
Mm,
become the version of myself that I wanted to be. And when whatever version of yourself you are, that's the people that you'll vibrate into your space.
mm,
And so as I was able to pull more of my energy back into myself and stop leaking it out to try and change him, all of a sudden I found girlfriends who were more aligned with me, who were more able to be there for me. Yeah. And I just have, I mean, I almost don't want to say the word manifested, because it feels like more like grace, like it was just given to me. But whatever it was, whatever it is, I've been placed into an amazing community. Yeah.
And that they always say everything is energy, right? And that vibration of what you're putting out in the world and releasing that resentment and releasing that need to change everything just allows you to open up and let in what beauty, right? What excitement in that community that you've cultivated and what a gift.
Yeah, for a long time I felt like a leaky bucket, just like holes
Yeah.
everywhere, leaking all my
Well,
energy out,
I think
trying to control everything.
with a child, the energy leaking happens all the time.
So much, nonstop.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The last thing, I'm so intrigued in how eh, you just talk about with your son. We're all going to die at some point. Is there one thing that you speak to your son about that has been helpful in this journey?
Yeah, to be honest, I recently have pulled back a little bit about talking about myself dying with him. I think his nervous system was like not ready for quite that much conversation around that.
Yeah.
And he started getting really clingy, like had to be torn off me to go to school, that kind of thing. So I did pull back some on specifically speaking about myself, but what I have substituted that for is just speaking about endings in general and how and transitions and how it's scary when things end and it's hard to try even something as simple as like yesterday after school, I was like, okay, come on, we're going to go on a hike. And he's like, no, I want to go home. We always go home after school. And I'm like, this is a change. It's different. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not hiking. Okay, well, let's just give it a try. And of course, I forced him. And within 3 minutes up the trail, he's having the time of his life. And then pointing out, isn't it cool to try something new? Isn't it cool to try something different? And just little lessons like that I'm trying to put in on a day-to-day basis that like all things end, all things change,
Mhm.
life is scary, and none of that is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing permanent is change.
Yeah.
And so, what, how cool, right? That you were like, all right, we're going to go hiking. Let's go.
My niece is visiting. She's been staying with me for a few weeks, and so I've been trying to find us fun stuff to do. And it's so cool when you have visitors because it's like you're re-exploring your own home again, and you have fresh eyes on it.
Yeah, and you get to just share in the joy and the excitement of what's around you in your day to day. And well, what a gift. And oh my gosh. Well, speaking of gifts, I think that this book is such a lifeline for support for anyone who is either has terminal cancer or knows someone who is experiencing terminal cancer or is a caregiver. You just write so eloquently and you feel like you're right there with you experiencing the highs and the lows and the all arounds. And so thank you, Melanie, for putting this into the world. And I would love for you to let listeners know how they can find you. And I know your book isn't out yet, but it's coming soon. So let us know how we can
Yeah.
get involved.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. That's exactly my goal was to bring the readers on an emotional journey with me for them to experience, exactly what I'm feeling. So I'm glad that is the feedback you had for me. So my website's probably the easiest way. It's just my name, melanieezell.com. And on there, you can pre-order. The ebook is available for pre-order on Amazon. You can connect with the print book, which will be out March 24 is the scheduled date. So yeah, it's only like 3 weeks away. I'm really excited. And then you can also jump on my Substack, which is where I'm really bringing in these daily reflections where I did get to surf under the double rainbow, or I did have this conversation with my son's father, and just I'm trying to express what a life looks like when lived in the present moment.
Mm,
And I'm not perfect at it. So my Substack is where I'm sharing those reflections. So I would love for people to connect with me there, or on my Instagram, which is Yoga Surf Mel. And all of that is on my website. You can find all of that.
Yeah. And I think, Mel, what the best part is that you are human and you're sharing it all. It's not just this perfect little, here's my Instagram picture and here's my story. It's like, here, I'm raw. We've got our highs, we've got our lows, and we're discussing the things, and feel free on Substack if you want to put your list for the day. Interested, right? Just to see about like what you're going through and the things that you're thinking about. And I love that you're sharing that with all of us. So thank you. Thank
Thank you so much for having me, for sharing all of this. I just really appreciate connecting with you and connecting with your listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'll put everything in the show notes, and best of luck with the official launch of the book, and cannot wait to see it in real life. And I feel like it's a motion picture waiting to be had. So thanks again, Melanie. Have a great one.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Giving Grief Grace. It would be such a gift if you could share this episode with someone and brighten their day. You never know what will happen. Subscribe to get a weekly dose of positivity, and while you're at it, please leave a review. May you be kind to yourself in the week ahead and give yourself grace. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.